It was a quiet morning in the small town of Willow Creek. The sun had just begun to peek over the rooftops, casting a gentle golden hue on the streets. Birds chirped softly, and a light breeze rustled the leaves, carrying with it the scent of blooming flowers. People went about their daily routines, unaware that something extraordinary was about to unfold at the heart of the community. In a modest, cozy house at the end of Maple Lane, Mrs. Eleanor Smith sat at her kitchen table, her hands folded over a steaming cup of tea. Her eyes, though aged with time, sparkled with a mixture of anticipation and nervousness. Today was different. Today, she had decided it was finally time to reveal a secret she had carried quietly for half a century. For years, the townspeople knew Mrs. Smith as a kind, gentle woman who always had a smile and a helping hand for anyone in need. She had lived alone since her husband passed away 30 years ago, and her 2 children had moved to distant cities, pursuing their own lives. Yet, beneath her calm exterior, she had harbored a story that could change the way everyone viewed her life, and perhaps even their own. The secret, however, wasn't something ordinary. It wasn't about hidden treasures, scandalous events, or tales of mystery. It was far deeper and more profound, a story of faith, courage, and resilience that had been tested by time, sorrow, and joy alike. It was the kind of story that reminded people that life's greatest lessons often remain invisible until someone has the courage to share them. Mrs. Smith had been preparing for this moment for weeks. She had invited her closest neighbors, people she had known since childhood, to her home. The invitation was simple. "Join me for tea this morning. I have something to share." To most, it seemed like a casual gesture, but for Mrs. Smith, it was the culmination of 50 years of hope, prayer, and patience. As the clock struck 10, the doorbell rang. One by one, her neighbors arrived. Mr. Thompson, who had always admired her garden. Young Sarah and her father, who had often stopped by for advice. The Millers, who had moved into the neighborhood 2 decades ago. Each guest sensed that today would not be like any other. There was a quiet anticipation in the air, a feeling that something remarkable was about to unfold. Mrs. Smith welcomed everyone with her usual warmth. She led them to the living room, where soft sunlight filtered through lace curtains. The furniture, though simple, radiated comfort and nostalgia. She gestured for everyone to sit, and as they did, she felt her heart pounding, not out of fear, but out of the weight of the moment. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice gentle yet firm. "I've carried something with me for a very long time, something that has shaped who I am, and something I believe can inspire you as well." Her eyes scanned the room, meeting the curious gazes of each neighbor. Some nodded, others leaned forward slightly, sensing the importance of her words. She paused, collecting her thoughts. 50 years ago, she continued, I was faced with a choice that would change the course of my life. A choice between fear and faith, between giving up and holding on. That choice wasn't easy, and it required me to trust in something far greater than myself. The room grew silent. Even the ticking of the clock seemed to pause, as if the world itself were holding its breath. "Back then," Mrs. Smith said, "I was a young woman, full of dreams but weighed down by circumstances I could not control. Life had given me challenges that felt insurmountable. I lost people I loved, faced rejection, and struggled with decisions that no one could make for me. Yet, through it all, I learned a truth that I have kept close to my heart, that even in our darkest moments, God's love and guidance never leave us." Her voice softened, almost breaking, as she continued. "I realized that true strength isn't about what others see, but about what you hold in your heart. And so, I made a promise to myself to live a life of courage, kindness, and faith, no matter what obstacles came my way. I began to write letters filled with hope, encouragement, And love, not for anyone to read at the time, but for the day when I could finally share them with those who might need them. At this point, Mrs. Smith reached for a small wooden box, worn by time but carefully preserved. She opened it slowly, revealing dozens of neatly tied letters. Each envelope bore a date, some from years she could barely remember. The neighbors leaned closer, intrigued and moved by the sight. "These letters," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "contain the lessons I learned through trials, the prayers I whispered in silence, and the encouragement I wished someone had given me when I was young. I wrote them not knowing if anyone would ever see them. But today, I want to share them with you, not just to tell my story, but to remind you that your struggles are never wasted, and your faith can carry you through anything." As she began to read excerpts from the letters, the room filled with emotion. There were stories of heartbreak, of moments when she had almost given up, and yet continued on with unwavering faith. There were stories of unexpected kindness, small miracles, and the profound impact of choosing love over fear. Each letter was a testament to resilience and hope. Tears glistened in the eyes of her neighbors. Mr. Thompson whispered softly, "I had no idea," while Sarah held her father's hand tightly, sensing the depth of what she was hearing. The Millers nodded, silently acknowledging that they were witnessing something truly extraordinary. Mrs. Smith smiled gently, her own eyes shining. "The secret I've held for 50 years, she said, "is that life's greatest treasures are not things you can see or touch, but the love, faith, and courage that live inside you. Each of us has a story that can inspire others, and sometimes it just takes one moment, one act of sharing, to change the course of someone else's life." By the time she finished, the morning had passed into afternoon. The sunlight streamed brighter, and the air felt lighter, as if the weight of 50 years had been lifted. The neighbors lingered, holding letters close, reflecting on their own lives and the lessons they could carry forward. Mrs. Smith looked around, a sense of peace washing over her. For decades, she had wondered if anyone would ever understand, if anyone would ever care. And now, in this quiet living room filled with hearts open to her truth, she realized that courage, faith, and love were always worth sharing. As the guests prepared to leave, they hugged Mrs. Smith warmly, each one changed in some way by her revelation. Outside, the world continued its routine. Yet something had shifted. Hope had been reignited, hearts had been touched, and a simple act of sharing had reminded everyone that life's greatest lessons are often found in the stories we keep inside, until we are brave enough to reveal them. Mrs. Smith returned to her kitchen, sitting once more with her cup of tea. A sense of fulfillment settled over her. She had shared her secret, and in doing so, she had given a gift far greater than she had imagined. A gift of hope, inspiration, and faith that would ripple through Willow Creek for years to come. And as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Mrs. Smith whispered a quiet prayer of gratitude. For 50 years, she had waited. But today, she had reminded everyone that it is never too late to shine your light, share your story, and let the world know that love, courage, and faith endure forever.